Oregon's move and Baylor's move. You like what they did?
You know, I have not heard Oregon. Who did they decide on?
Mike, what's the kid from South, the guy, Taggart, the guy from South
Florida?
Florida.
They did Willie Taggart.
Yep.
Okay. Makes perfect sense to me in terms of getting Willie Taggart. Think about background, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Harbaugh, with the Harbaughs for a long time. Quarterback at Western Kentucky for Dad Harbaugh,
yep.
which won a national championship. Coached under Jim, okay? You know, San Diego, Stanford, Western Kentucky with those guys there. Built programs and did well at those places.
Mm-hmm.
What he did this past year, many people wonder if he would make it after this year. Brand new athletic director, the whole deal. Could not have had a better season. Develops kids well, understands styles. And here's the thing that Oregon needs more than anything. They need toughness.
Mm.
And Willie Taggart's going to bring that. I mean, think about how Harbaugh coaches and what he brought to Michigan, and before that to Stanford and San Diego. You're going to get the same thing with Taggart. So that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Also didn't hurt at all that Tony Dungy was heavy in his camp. And Tony Dungy's a well-respected person. His son had played at Oregon, the whole deal.
Got a little juice
but they
with
need
Coach
the
Dungy,
antithesis of what they've had, Brandon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they've needed. They've needed that because, let's face it, what have we talked about with them and have been issues the last few years? Been not able to stop anyone, not very tough,
mm-hmm.
not very aggressive, and Taggart's going to have to build that. Then you flip it over to Matt Rule.
Yeah.
I'm eager to see how he integrates his style, his philosophy, and everything at Baylor, similar to what he did at Temple. But here's where he has a challenge. You ready?
Yeah, I think I know it, but go ahead.
They are used to playing a certain style of offense there. That put them back on the map. Briles air raid style stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It continued this year. Jim Grobe is the titular head coach, but it was the same offensive staff. Briles' son-in-law, Briles' son. They still kept flinging it around doing that. Matt Rule doesn't do that. But will he have to keep some elements of that for a fan base that's used to it while finding a way to bring that toughness that he brought to Temple to them? Because if he's able to integrate both, you've got something different in the Big 12. Because the Big 12, amazingly enough, all those years when you thought of Texas and Oklahoma as being extremely physical teams, when was the last time you really thought of them that way?
Oh, the whole conference is soft, man. You know
the whole
this,
conference
Charles.
You don't think of that way.
Ugh.
So if Matt Rule's able to bring to Baylor what he brought to Temple,
mm-hmm.
they become an outlier, and that's a good thing in that conference.
That's a really unique perspective. By the way, it's Charles Davis with us here, Fox Sports NFL analyst, and we'll get something on the game he's got this weekend with the Red Hot Bucks. But I actually thought you were going to say the challenge maybe inherently with his his connection to the Northeast and suddenly try to infiltrate the recruiting in Texas.
It's a big one, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is a thing that if they're smart, they went over it in the hiring process. So normally when a guy like a Matt Rule has the success he has, there's a lot of loyalty that goes along with it, meaning staff. So I think what Matt Rule in most situations would say, go into his staff room and say, guys, we're going to Baylor. In this case, he's got to make sure he has people on that Baylor staff that are so connected to Texas high school football,
mm-hmm.
he can't afford to go down there with a strictly Northeast group.
Yeah, otherwise he'll be right back at Temple.
Bingo.
Or worse.
And Matt is smarter than that.
Yeah.
So I will guarantee that he will have heavy Texas ties on his staff in order for them to – because here's the thing.
Yep.
The Texas coaches don't know Matt. He will introduce himself to them, but he needs an introduction through his staff. His staff has to be able to go to those high schools and go, yo, high school coach in Texas.
Here's my guy.
Matt's cool.
Yeah.
And here we come.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes in there cold and has to do it all himself, you're a couple years behind. He's smarter than that, and I hope Baylor people were smart enough to figure that out. But I think Matt will have a staff that will have a good influence of Texas people and people who know that system well in order to introduce him, and then let's see what happens from there.
I'm happy I ran that by you. Really good stuff. Charles Davis. All right, so you have the Bucks who are red hot and have worked their way into a very relevant position, and that's being, conservative.
Yep.
I mean, beyond relevant. They're right in the mix now for the division here against New Orleans, who for some reason just couldn't crank out any points against Detroit. I know that people are still probably a little reticent to buy the Bucks here, but I got to tell you, Charles, when you win at Arrowhead and when you hold Seattle to 5 points and when you win against the Chargers, who I know they haven't won a lot, but San Diego is good, that is a team to me that not only can win enough to win a wild card, but why can't they win the division? I think the Bucks are really good.
Yeah, there's no reason that they can't. Their road is a little bit tougher if you look at schedule, but I don't think it's appreciably tougher, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but what's tougher than going to Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs?
Right. That's exactly where I was going,
yeah, okay.
Because you had pointed it out before. This is a team now that knows they can beat people in good places and knows that they can compete. But here's where I think they took off this year and put them in this spot. As they had injuries to key players, to playmakers, Vincent Jackson goes down, Doug Martin goes down. They end up losing Antone Smith, who you don't think of as a huge playmaker, but he was in there. Jaquiz Rogers goes down. He lost a lot of guys that you would rely on. Austin Seferian-Jenkins never panned out. And I think that Jameis learned during that time just how critical it was to take care of the ball because he couldn't take chances anymore. You could take chance in one spot, and that was to Mike Evans. That's it.
Yep.
Everywhere else, you got to take care of it because these guys have to prove themselves. So in a lot of ways, the things that they were coaching him to do to take care of the ball became crystal clear when they lost players, and I think he made the adjustment as a quarterback, and it served his team well. The flip side is the defense regrouped after that Thursday night game against Atlanta, simplified things, they're playing faster, and you notice their numbers have dropped big time in that time frame. So now every game's not a shootout. And that's a good thing for Tampa.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Why not them? There's no reason they can't. Here's the funny part now, though. They're in a position where they have to caution themselves not to overlook someone to get to the Dallas game, which has been moved to the Sunday night game.
Hey, that's when we'll learn more about Coach
How
Cutter.
weird is that?
But that's on the coach now. He's done a nice job. Now take the next step and make sure your team doesn't look past the current opponent.
But I do believe that last week's game at San Diego helped with that.
Yes.
Because that was that type of a game already. Because they'd come off, as you pointed out, Kansas City, Seattle. Now you make the West Coast trip to San Diego, which is dangerous because of Phillip Rivers, and they handled it. That was a big deal. Now they got to do it again at home with New Orleans. Go to Dallas, where you're now the feature game. Think about that now. NBC kicked Cincinnati, Pittsburgh to the curb to take you.
That's amazing when you think about it.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that is a
really
big
deal.
I'm with
you.
you.
And here's your chance to show the whole country what your goods are, but they've got to handle their business on Sunday first.
Charles, give me about 30 seconds, a little tight. Charles Davis from Fox. The big game tomorrow, divisional matchup. Obviously, the Raiders already lost at home to the Chiefs, so the Chiefs have one up on them. This thing's probably going down to the wire in terms of the top seed in the AFC. Who do you like tomorrow?
I actually like Kansas City at home. It's Thursday night. Travel again for Oakland. They beat them once before. Justin Houston is back and is turning it loose, and that's a big deal. And did you see Alex Smith throw the ball downfield last week?
It finally happens once in a while.
If that continues to happen, Kansas City's that much better. I just think it's a short week, Thursday night games, the odds almost always favor the home team.
Yeah.
Especially when there's significant travel involved, and coming from Oakland to Kansas City is not easy travel.
Now, what a disservice, though, to have a divisional game on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Come on,
that's
man.
The one, that's the one that you look at, and over the years, whenever you've seen Thursday night games with heavy travel, it usually hasn't turned out well, and this is a monster game.
Yeah.
I understand why they would want it on Thursday, because of the rivalry, because of the name factor, and it's actually coalesced very well for the league that it's a huge game. But when we talk about Thursdays, how fair are Thursdays to begin with? This is an extra layer of maybe not fair.